Today, Sagla is going to help his relatives move. They are leaving their pasture at a high elevation and beginning their migration down to the lower elevations. This morning, as Sagla was putting on his shoes, he reminded the children to look after the flock of sheep and to also watch the house. Today, he is heading out to help his relatives move. He will help move their flock and belongings from the high elevation summer pasture down to the low elevation winter pasture. He won't be back until tomorrow. Sagla was just joking around, asking Yakson to come with him. Little Yakson quickly said no. He said he couldn't walk that far on the mountain trails, and that it was better to stay at home. In just a short while, Sagla finished packing his bag and set off on the journey to his relative's home. This time, he didn't bring Zainab with him, because the journey was simply too long. Sagla has now arrived with his donkey at the entrance to the high elevation pasture. This is the final point that cars can reach. The herdsman built steps here to prevent the entrance from becoming too muddy and slippery. It also makes the last stretch of the journey, where cars can't go, easier to manage by hand. Now Sagla is leading his donkey slowly onto the narrow mountain path. The further in they go, the narrower the path becomes. From the mountain pass to his relative's high elevation pasture, the journey is not short. It crosses several hillsides and valleys. Not too far ahead, Sagla leads his donkey to the mouth of a cave. Here, a water trough has been built out of concrete. It's a watering stop prepared specifically for livestock on their long journey. Donkeys and mules carry heavy loads on these mountain paths, so they often need to stop for a drink of water and to regain their strength. In the neighboring cave, there is another watering spot. Fresh spring water from the top of the cave drips down one drop at a time from the cracks in the rock. It's clear and ice cold. This spring is reserved for people to drink from when herdsmen are on a long journey moving their households. They can stop here for a drink to replenish their energy. Watering spots like this one are located along the path leading to the high elevation pasture. There are several of them. They serve as small rest stops along the journey, ensuring the herdsmen and their livestock can safely reach their destination. Sagla has been leading the donkey for over 2 hours now. He has entered a much higher altitude zone. The temperature here is already noticeably lower than at the entrance. If it's like this during the day, once night falls, the temperature here will drop even more sharply. Extreme temperature swings between day and night are normal for high mountain pastures. Sagla has now reached his destination. These shelters, built from stacked stones, serve as the herdsmen's temporary homes. Some families have already moved on, but Sagla's relatives are the last ones to leave. Sagla leads his donkey into his relative's camp and goes to greet everyone. They kiss the back of each other's hands, performing a traditional greeting passed down for generations. At this moment, the neighbors have also gathered. With Sagla, their relative now here. Everyone first sits down for a cup of tea to discuss the division of labor and the route ahead. Throughout the year, there are several major migrations like this one. Each time neighbors, friends, and relatives come to help. Every migration is a communal effort. It's both a necessity for their way of life and a way to strengthen the bonds within their community. Right now, they are gathering the donkeys. The donkeys are responsible for carrying the tents, pots and pans, food supplies, and other household items. They have to set out early tomorrow morning. Families like this one are the most typical representation of a nomadic lifestyle. They graze their herds in the cool, high-altitude pastures in the summer, and then move to the lower elevations, where the climate is milder for the winter. The sky is gradually getting darker, and the chill in the mountain air is growing stronger. They use solar power to provide lighting. Some of the slightly better off families even have a small diesel generator. The next day at 5 a.m., before the sun has risen, a cold chill blankets the valley. The children have to huddle around the fire to stay warm. The adults are already busy with their tasks. They are packing up household items and taking down the tents. The rhythm of the move has begun. As soon as the first light hits the mountaintop, they will set off on the long journey to the low elevation pasture. The children gradually join in, helping to pack the luggage and move the items. Even though the landscape in the shot looks barren, this hillside is actually covered with lots of short grasses and shrubs. For the sheep, this is like a full-course mountain feast. Besides their flock of sheep, nomadic families often raise some small livestock as well, such as chickens. At the same time, they also keep a few boxes of bees. The mountains are rich with wildflowers and pasture blossoms. The bees collect nectar to make honey, which not only brings sweetness to the family, but also serves as a nutritional and medicinal reserve. This way, living in the mountains, their lifestyle is almost completely self-sufficient. Only some daily consumables like wheat, rice, flour, and tea, as well as sugar and salt, need to be obtained from the outside. From the outside world, some herdsmen even grow their own wheat. In these high mountain pastures, summer is the season when the grass is most abundant. The mountain air is cool, and the meadows are lush, making it perfect for grazing the sheep. However, it's already August now, and the weather is getting colder by the day. At night, the mountain wind is bone-chilling, and the growth of the grass has slowed down. Before long, the temperature will drop sharply. Once winter arrives and heavy snow covers the mountains, this high elevation pasture will no longer be suitable for livestock to remain in. Everyone has been busy for a while now. Sagla fried a few eggs. Time for a simple breakfast to regain some energy. Sagla and these families all belong to the same tribe. The nomadic way of life means they rarely migrate as single households. Instead, they move as a tribal unit, with everyone looking out for each other. During the migration, one family's labor might not be enough to handle everything. Without the help of neighbors and relatives, it would be nearly impossible to complete the journey successfully. After breakfast, there's no time to waste. They immediately jump into the most important step, loading all their belongings, big and small, onto the backs of the donkeys. This process is actually quite tricky. A donkey's back can only carry so much. If one side is heavier than the other, while walking on the rugged mountain paths, it could cause the donkey to lose its balance, or even get injured. Because of this, they pay special attention to balancing the weight on both sides. During a nomadic family's migration, every single item, large and small, from pots and pans to bedding, grain, and clothing, is transported almost entirely by donkeys. You might be wondering, why don't the herders here use horses? It actually has to do with the local environment, as well as their traditional customs. First, donkeys have better endurance. They aren't built for speed, but they can move steadily on steep mountain trails, rocky slopes, and narrow paths. For the herders, the priority during migration isn't speed, it's stability. The donkey's nature is perfectly suited for this. Second, donkeys eat less and have a high tolerance for thirst. To the herders, a donkey is like a moving cargo truck. No matter how many mountain roads they travel, it can reliably carry their home's belongings all the way to the new pasture. The sun gradually rises from behind the distant mountains, its morning rays casting light upon the hillside. The herders quicken their pace. This is a scene all too familiar to the nomads. They repeat this migration time and time again, continuing the rhythm of life of their ancestors. This young boy is dragging a stiff sheep out of the pen. This sheep was a victim of the cold night wind, its life taken by the freezing temperatures. The climate in the high mountain pastures is unpredictable, with extreme temperature swings between day and night. Even with the best of care, accidents like this are unavoidable. This donkey suddenly lay down on the ground and refused to get up. Everyone has to push with all their might to get it back on its feet. The load on the donkey's back doesn't seem particularly heavy. Just a few blankets and some empty bottles. It certainly doesn't look like a burden that would crush it. Although donkeys are strong, they are notoriously stubborn. If it feels the load is uncomfortable, or if the items are positioned incorrectly, or if it simply doesn't want to move, it will just lie down and refuse to get up. These plastic containers are filled with their own homemade honey. They explain that this is 100% natural honey. Now they are dedicating one donkey specifically to carry these containers of honey, to avoid mixing them with other items, which could cause damage or spills along the way. The sunlight slowly spills into the valley. By now, the herders have mostly finished packing. All their household goods are tied securely to the donkeys' backs. Before they set off, there is one more essential task to do: cleaning up their trash. Once everything is ready, the moment of departure finally arrives. The flock of sheep is driven out of the pen and towards the mountain path. At the same time, the donkeys, loaded with their heavy burdens, also join the procession. This migration route is a well-established seasonal migration corridor. This path wasn't created randomly. It was forged by generations of their ancestors. A fixed route. Sagla and his family used to come to this high mountain pasture every summer in previous years. But this year, for some reason, they were unable to graze their animals here. Hey, hey. The Great Migration Procession stretches out magnificently through the valley. The donkeys' backs are laden with belongings. The herders either walk ahead to clear the path or follow behind to look after the livestock. The sheep flocks are usually moved in batches. They don't herd the entire tribe's flock onto the road all at once. The numbers would be too large, and they wouldn't have enough people to manage them. With the slightest oversight, a sheep could get lost, injured, or even left behind. The sheep graze as they walk, moving in fits and starts. The herders must constantly keep an eye on the flock's movements. The nomadic migration has become much easier compared to the past. In the old days, when herders migrated, they often had to travel for several days, sometimes even more than 10. It was a long journey, crossing mountains and ridges. They had to set up tents along the way to rest the flock. The animals often lost weight or became exhausted due to the long distance. But now, transportation has gradually improved. Roads now reach the entrances of some pastures. Some supplies can even be transported in advance by vehicle. The distance that truly needs to be covered on foot and with livestock has been shortened significantly. For the herders, although migration is still hard work, at least it's no longer the grueling hardship of an endless road. The group has now reached this watering point. The donkeys eagerly drink the water. For the herders, donkeys are the true silent laborers. They eat very little, yet they carry the heaviest loads. Continuing forward, the migration party has already covered most of the distance. They are only about half an hour away from their destination. After emerging from the steep canyon, they have finally arrived at the entrance to the high mountain pasture. The terrain here is gentle, and the view is wide open. It's the perfect spot for a short break. Everyone unloads the donkeys, allowing them to catch their breath. The sheep are still behind, being slowly driven by the others. It will take some time for them to arrive. So, during this lull, the herders rest where they are, waiting for the flock to catch up before moving on. At this point, the manpower is not as tight as it was at the beginning of the journey. Sagla says goodbye to his relatives and heads back home. Sagla also brought back some water this time. Recently, the family has been facing a severe water shortage, so this is a much-needed relief. Sagla is exhausted from the day's work, but seeing his children, all his hardship and fatigue melt away. He takes out the water and gives it to the children to drink. The nomadic life has never been easy. Water shortages, migration, and hard labor. Every step is heavy and difficult.